Hello and welcome back to our Advanced English series. I'm Emma, and today we're stepping into territory that really separates intermediate speakers from advanced ones.
Hey everyone, I'm Jake. And Emma's right, this lesson is going to feel a bit different. We're working at C1 level today, which means we're not just learning what's correct, we're learning what sounds elegant, sophisticated, even literary.
Exactly. By now, you all know how to say things like, if I had more time, I would help you. That's perfectly fine. But today we're going to learn how to say the same idea in ways that sound far more polished.
And honestly, when I hear non-native speakers use these structures naturally, I'm always impressed. It tells me they've gone beyond textbooks and started reading real literature, watching serious films, listening carefully.
So today's focus is on nuanced hypotheticals. We'll cover inverted conditionals, mixed time references, and 5 beautiful expressions. Were it not for, had it not been, but for, providing that, and on condition that.
Let's get started, because there's a lot to unpack.
Right. So let me begin with the concept of inversion in conditionals. In standard English, we say, if I were rich, I would travel. But in more formal or literary English, we can drop the if and invert the subject and verb.
So that becomes, were I rich, I would travel. Notice how were comes before I. The word if has disappeared, but the meaning is identical.
Precisely. And the same happens with past conditionals. Instead of, if I had known, I would have called, we can say, had I known, I would have called.
Now, this is where our target expressions come in. Were it not for is essentially an inverted version of if it weren't for. It introduces something that prevents or enables a current situation.
And had it not been is the past version. It refers to something that influenced a past situation. We use it when we want to highlight what would have happened differently.
Then we have but for, which is wonderfully compact. It means essentially the same as were it not for or had it not been, but it's much shorter and feels almost poetic.
And finally, providing that and on condition that. These two introduce conditions or requirements. They're slightly more formal than simply saying if, and they emphasize that something only happens under specific circumstances.
Let me show you all of this in action with a conversation. Emma and I are going to chat about a friend of ours who recently moved abroad.
Jake, did you hear about Marcus? He's finally settled in Lisbon, and apparently he's loving every minute.
I did hear, yeah. And honestly, were it not for his sister's encouragement, I don't think he'd ever have made the leap. He was so hesitant for years.
That's so true. Had it not been for her constant support, he'd probably still be stuck in that miserable office job in Manchester.
Exactly. But for her, his life would look completely different right now. She really pushed him at exactly the right moment.
I remember he told me he'd only consider moving providing that he could keep his current clients remotely. And luckily, they all agreed.
Right, and his employer agreed on condition that he flew back to London once a month for important meetings. Which seems like a fair arrangement.
It really does. You know, were it not for modern technology, none of this would be possible. Imagine trying to do that 20 years ago.
Impossible. Had it not been for the rise of remote work after the pandemic, companies would never have accepted such arrangements.
Lovely. So let's pause and unpack what just happened in that conversation, because there was a lot of advanced grammar working quietly in the background.
First, when I said, were it not for his sister's encouragement, he wouldn't have moved, notice the structure. Were it not for plus a noun phrase, then a hypothetical result.
And critically, were it not for refers to a present or general situation. The sister's encouragement is something that exists, that was real and ongoing.
Then Emma used had it not been for her constant support. This points firmly to the past. The support already happened, and we're imagining a different past outcome.
But for is interesting because it can work for both past and present, and you have to figure out which from context. But for her, his life would look different right now. That's clearly present.
And providing that and on condition that introduced the requirements that made everything possible. Marcus would only move providing that he kept his clients. The condition was central to his decision.
Yes. And his employer agreed on condition that he flew back monthly. Notice we're using simple past tense flew, not would fly, because we're describing the agreed condition.
One more thing to notice, these structures often appear with mixed time references. Had it not been for, which is past, plus would never have accepted, also past. Both clauses point backward.
But you can mix them. For instance, had I studied harder at university, I would have a better job now. Past condition, present result. That's a classic mixed conditional.
Alright, let's hear another conversation. This time, we're discussing a difficult business decision Emma had to make.
Jake, I've been agonizing over whether to accept this consulting contract. It's lucrative, but it would mean traveling almost constantly.
Were it not for your young children, I'd say take it without hesitation. But that's a serious complication.
Exactly my dilemma. Had it not been for the school year just starting, perhaps I'd consider it more seriously.
Could you negotiate? Maybe accept providing that you only traveled 2 weeks a month rather than 4?
I did suggest something similar. They said they'd consider it on condition that I'm available for video calls at any hour, including weekends.
Wait, let me try this. If I would have your situation, I think I'd refuse.
Careful there, Jake. We never use would in the if clause. It should be, if I were in your situation, or even better, the inverted form, were I in your situation.
Right, of course. Were I in your situation, I'd probably refuse. But for the financial pressure, I imagine you'd already have said no, wouldn't you?
Honestly, yes. But for the mortgage and the children's future, I'd politely decline tomorrow morning.
And had it not been for that recent unexpected expense, you'd probably have more flexibility now, right?
Precisely. Were it not for the new boiler costing us a fortune, I'd feel much more relaxed about turning down extra income.
Well, whatever you decide, I'd only support a yes on condition that you protect your weekends fiercely. Family time matters.
Wise advice, Jake. Thank you. Now, let's spend some time really drilling our target vocabulary so you can use these expressions confidently.
Starting with were it not for. Remember, this is for present or ongoing situations. Were it not for my morning coffee, I'd never function before 9.
Lovely example. Another one. Were it not for the rain, we could have a picnic in the garden right now. The rain is happening, it's a current obstacle.
And one more. Were it not for her sense of humor, working with her would be unbearable. Her humor exists, and it makes things tolerable.
Now had it not been. This is firmly past tense. Had it not been for the traffic, I'd have arrived on time. The traffic happened, and it changed the past outcome.
Had it not been for my grandmother's stories, I'd never have become a writer. She told stories in the past, and that shaped who I am.
And one more. Had it not been for his quick thinking, the accident would have been far worse. His thinking happened in a past moment of crisis.
Now, but for. This one is short, elegant, and works for both past and present. But for your help, I'd be completely lost.
But for that one mistake, the project would have been a complete success. Notice how compact and almost poetic it sounds.
But for the kindness of strangers, traveling alone would be terrifying. So beautiful, so concise.
Now providing that. This introduces a condition that must be met. I'll lend you the book providing that you return it next week.
We can attend the wedding providing that we can find affordable flights. The condition is essential to making it happen.
And she agreed to the interview providing that her name wouldn't be published. Her cooperation depended entirely on that condition.
Finally, on condition that. Very similar to providing that, but slightly more formal, often used in legal or professional contexts. The bank approved the loan on condition that we provided collateral.
He was released on condition that he reported to the police station weekly. That's classic legal language.
And in everyday use. I'll babysit on condition that you leave the kids fed and ready for bed. The condition is firm and clearly stated.
Excellent. Now let's review what we've covered today. We started with inversion, dropping if and rearranging the verb to create more formal conditionals.
We learned that were it not for handles present situations, while had it not been is for the past, and but for elegantly does both.
And providing that along with on condition that introduce specific requirements. Slightly more formal than if, and useful for negotiations, agreements, and careful speech.
Try this. Take a sentence from your own life and rewrite it 3 ways. Use were it not for, then but for, then on condition that. See how each one shifts the meaning slightly.
And remember, mixed conditionals are your friends. Past conditions can have present results. Present conditions can describe past hypotheticals. Don't be afraid to mix them.
These structures will make your English sound mature, sophisticated, and confident. Keep practicing, and they'll soon feel natural.
Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a dense lesson, but a rewarding one.
Next time, in Lesson C104, we're tackling discourse markers and advanced linking expressions. Things like having said that, that being so, with that in mind. They'll add even more polish to your English.
Until then, keep listening, keep reading, and keep noticing these structures in the wild. You'll be amazed how often they appear once you know what to look for.
Take care, everyone, and we'll see you in the next lesson.